This is Ryan Abraham, Shotgun Spratling, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis, not from Howard Jones Field, from the LA Coliseum. We are back in the Coliseum. USC defeats the Rice Owls 66-14, shutting them out in the second half. I think one first down for Rice in the second half. A lot of concern about the defense. 3 pick sixes, ties the USC record, which actually is the USC record because it was 1981. One of them was a fumble return where they used to call an interception return. They don't do that anymore. The Pac-12 record was 3. I think the NCAA record was 4, but 3 pick sixes in the game is pretty insane. But shut them out in the second half. I mean, it's a really good defensive effort we saw in the second half. But obviously, putting up as many points as you do. 66 points. You wanted a 70 burger, but 66 is pretty good.
I was feeling really good at one point. You know, it's 59-14 almost going into the fourth quarter, and Caleb Williams said he was trying to do everything he could to kind of convince Lincoln Riley to let him stay in the game. And Lincoln Riley joked in the press conference that, hey, this isn't our first year together, because Caleb Williams was trying to make sure he went out of bounds and do all the things to say, Coach, look, just leave me in there. So I was feeling good about the potential of USC getting to that 70 burger, but obviously a great debut for a ton of people, and especially this era, the era of Lincoln Riley. The Coliseum wasn't packed today, really hot, but they put on a show. The players did. So anyone that was here got a show, and a lot of newcomers, from Caleb Williams to Jordan Addison with 2 touchdowns, Austin Jones with 2 touchdowns, Radique Brown putting out the Heisman pose, and he was joking about it on the sideline. I was walking by after that, and he's like, I had to do it. His first touchdown. So you're seeing all the playmakers that USC had. So I think that was probably the thing that struck me the most. When you go back and look at these highlights, 9 touchdowns scored, 7 different players scoring touchdowns, 3 of those coming on the defensive side. And Shane Lee getting a pick 6, the Alabama captain, or transfer that is now a captain at USC. So I think just seeing those players, that some of the guys that have put in the work and have had no success in the past, but also the newcomers coming in, you got to be excited about the potential of this team. Yeah,
the offense was going that side of the ball first. I think it was 538 total yards on 58 plays, 9.3 yards per play. Caleb Williams, he had 6 rushes. It looked like they had a lot of time. He would kind of look around, and if there was nothing there, he would just take off. He had a lot of time to assess the situation, took off and run. 6 rushes, 68 yards. I had Austin Green, who's a new member of the USCFootball.com team, trying to look it up. He hasn't couldn't find a quarterback rushing total for USC that high since 2000. Maybe since Rodney Peete or something, but I knew that hasn't happened for a while. So just to see him kind of take off effortlessly, really efficient. I think it was 19-22 or something like that. A couple touchdowns at Jordan Addison. I mean, it just, for his debut, I think he did a really good job. But it was a really efficient offense. They scored every time they touched the ball except once when the second string came in, and then a bunch of penalties on that one drive.
Yeah, I mean, just when you score every drive except for one, and that's with the backups kind of coming in, you get some penalties. I mean, I don't know what else you can say about the offense. They were electric. They did anything they wanted to against Rice, and you got to credit the offensive line. Caleb Williams, like you said, had forever back there a ton of times, and that gives, that, and then you go into scramble drill. Now you're trying to guard Mario Williams and Jordan Addison, all those weapons that are on the outside for USC at the receiver position, and those running backs that were getting loose as well for some catches. When you're trying to defend all those pieces for 5, 6, 7 seconds, you just can't do it as a defense, especially not one of the caliber of Rice. So, USC was able to do whatever they wanted because the offensive line gave them time. And if the offensive line plays like that, USC has a chance to be special on offense. Yeah. And I will point out, I asked Jordan Addison about, what's it like seeing all these different playmakers. What do you think about this team, showcasing all those playmakers? He's like, he talked about how he enjoys the rotation with the receivers. They're all hoping for each other to make big plays. But he said, hopefully we're going to score 50 a game.
Yeah, I mean, that's how much talk was there during the Graham Hill era about scoring 55 points and stuff, and they never got there. This is more points than we ever saw for quite a while. So I think it's just pretty crazy to see how efficient they were on the offensive side of the ball. Switching over to the defensive side, I mean, there were definitely some concerns in the first half. There was efficient drives by Rice. That first drive was like an 8-minute drive to open the game. They converted all 4 of the first 5 third downs or something like that. So I think there was some concern there. And then, the pick 6 the first pick 6 happened in the first half, and that kind of got the defense juiced up a little bit. They got to stop, and then it ends up being a Romello Height targeting call, and then and Rice goes on to score. But this is going to be a Rice team that looks a lot like Stanford, like the way they're going to run the ball. Maybe some concerns up front, but they rotated a lot of guys. What was your overall assessment of how the defense played?
never worry after one drive.
Yeah.
Even if a team rolls down, that's their scripted plays. It's what adjustments do you make? And the defense made some adjustments, and I thought it was really interesting how much they rotated. I tried to get in a couple times with Alex Grinch to ask him about his rotations. Didn't get the question in there before we were cut off in the scrum. But, because they used so many people, was that just because of the heat? I'm sure that played a little bit into it.
Sure.
And because of the opponent, you want to get some guys some opportunities. But there were a ton of guys that got chances out there, rotating at different positions throughout the day. So just to see, okay, what do we actually have on this defense? When the lights come on, who's actually going to shine? So I think that's something they wanted to see. That first drive, they were giving up the scores or giving up the third down conversions, a little bit of concern. They were getting beat over the middle. Well, you look at the rest of the game, they didn't get beat over the middle of the tight ends. The quarterbacks attempted to throw those passes several times again, but those were the ones that were tipped and then ended up in USC players' hands. So I don't know what kind of adjustment that necessarily was on the USC sideline, but you see that there was a difference after that first drive from the first drive. So I think that when you see one drive happen, take a chill pill. Take a deep breath and say, okay, let's see what they do after that. And if it continues, that's when you worry, but not after the first drive itself. So I wasn't really concerned about that. I thought it was interesting, the guys that made an impact. The linebackers making the impact with Shane Lee, Raylan Goforth, both getting the pick sixes. The play by Kalen Bullock, and I don't know which one's more impressive. Him running down the guy, showing that effort and going making a play. And we've seen that in the past. And sometimes you do that and you get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
They score on the very next play, and you're just like, I just wasted all my energy going and chasing this guy down. A couple plays later, he gets an opportunity, ball gets tipped to him, takes it to the house. Yeah. I'm sure he was tired after that drive, after chasing that guy down, then running 100 yards. But I thought it was really interesting watching the sideline. He goes and scores, and I'm next to the sideline, couldn't get great shots because everyone was jumping out, trying to see him running down the sideline. But there was a ton of players on that sideline that did about a 60 to 80-yard sprint from, one end of the box all the way to the other end and a little bit out of the box to go celebrate with him. It just shows you the camaraderie of this group. I think that's something that, that we were looking to see. Okay, is it true what they're saying?
Looked like it.
And, there's so much energy on the sideline, even coming out, leading out of the tunnel, those type of things. The coaches, Sean Newell, was pumped up before the game. And it carried over, I think. Eric Gentry, multiple times hearing him yelling at some teammates and just being fired up and telling guys to let's go type thing. So I thought it was, that there were some things that they'll have to get, a little bit of concern, get cleaned up a little bit. But to see the different players making plays, to see Tyron Taleni get a sack, to see Solomon Tulialapupu get a sack.
You got to mention Solo.
I looked over the sideline. Remember, Sean Newell at our media day said he might run on the field and get a 15-yard penalty, but I didn't see him run out there. But just talking to the players and hearing them talk about, Justin Dietrich said he gave him a hug on the sideline afterwards because he knows what he's been through. Lincoln Riley said he didn't think that the players were pumped up or more excited to see someone get their opportunity than Solomon Tulialapupu, knowing what he's been through. And so for him to go out there, just a straight bull rush, pushing a guy back into the pocket and then going and getting the quarterback. Great play by him. He gets a sack. So it was interesting to see the different guys making plays with all the different rotations, and we'll see how it continues to progress as the season goes on.
You mentioned some of the energy on the sideline. I did notice, after between the third and fourth quarter, because this is when Miller Moss was going to start to warm up, but they had the whole team kind of gather up, and they were all together. And it looked like this was something that they wanted to do. They all came out with the fight on signs afterwards. I mean, it seemed like the game was out of hand at that point, but I think that's kind of one of their new traditions or something they're going to be doing.
It's having a plan. It's having a plan to the detail. It's knowing, okay, what do we do in between quarters? Rather than, hey, let's figure something out right now. It's having that plan and all those small details, and that's something that they really struggle with in the past in the previous regime, is being locked in on those small details. And that's something we've noted in practices, something we've noted with different things as this fall camp has progressed from spring camp as well. Just the attention to detail is on a completely different level than what the previous regime was, and I think that's just another example of it right there. Dennis
Lynch makes his Trojan debut as far as field goal. He gets his first field goal. I don't know how many extra points, I guess 9 extra points, so he was busy out there. Not so much for Aiden Sleep Dalton, the new punter. I tweeted out, how you guys think he's doing? Because he didn't see the field. He came in for one punt. It was 26 yards. Overall, I mean, they gave up a couple returns early on special teams, and didn't really do much in the punt return game or anything. We saw Jordan Addison back there. We saw Gary Bryant Jr. But overall, it wasn't going to be a special teams type of game. But it was good to see Lynch do some stuff. We just didn't get to see much from the punt game.
I mean, the most impressive thing about the special teams was Dennis Lynch's attire pre-post game, walking in with the black turtleneck with the gold chain, a la The Rock from his younger days. I believe it when he was at Miami. So, he was dancing on the sideline. Chris has got some video of that that's going to go up a little bit later. I mean, he is just an absolute character, and he's one of those players that everyone kind of gravitates towards because he's fun, he's funny, and to see him go out there and perform. It's his first time being out there, so let's see, okay, what can he do? It's a short field goal, but you still got to make those.
Yeah.
And, it's a opportunity to punt for the first time. You still got to go out there and punt, and Aiden Sleep-Dalton, struggled with that a little bit. Dennis Lynch, took care of all his stuff, scored 12 points in the game. So, we'll see how that progresses for him, winning that job, and when he has to kick a more significant field goal, what's then the pressure going to be like for him? So, yeah, special teams didn't really take much away from it besides kind of seeing who the returners were going to be. That was something we were wondering, all right, who's going to be? Seeing Jordan Addison back there for punts, seeing Brendan Rice back and Mario Williams back as the primary kick returners. I think those were something, because they weren't on the depth chart, I was kind of looking to see. And we'll see if special teams become something that can make an impact in a game or something that USC will overcome throughout the season because they don't have a dedicated special teams coach like they've had in the past.
Yeah. One of the things when you come out here, Coliseum, your team, you want to get the dub, you want to get the win. They got the win. You would like to be able to have a little breathing room, scoring a whole bunch of points, and being able to play a lot of the guys on the bench. And that's one of the criticisms we've had for several years, that these guys come in and they never get an opportunity to play until it's like, now you got to start because you're the next on the list. So a whole bunch of guys got to play today. I mean, maybe that's not going to be the way it is for the rest of the season, but this is exactly what you want. Miller Moss throwing the ball around, like getting opportunities. We saw a whole second-team offensive line coming in there, and we saw that they were rotating on the defensive line in the very first quarter, but they were playing a lot of guys that weren't listed on the two deep were playing, and guys that can play, and they just weren't even good enough to make the two deep. But I thought that was a significant aspect of this game is guys got real playing time, and you're out here playing against a real opponent, not doing something in like a scrimmage and Howard Jones.
Yeah, Zamarian Gordon with an interception.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith being out there, Latrell McCutcheon getting a sack. We haven't seen, he's not on that depth chart. Where is he? Everybody's kind of wondering.
Sack. He was on the depth chart.
And he's been out there. When Romello Height goes out with the ejection, you then see Julian Simon come in at that rush-in position rotating with Corey Foreman. I thought he made a couple nice plays in that. So, seeing some of those guys, and that's one of those situations where you're not on the two deep. You're not probably going to get in there until it's a blowout. But because of an ejection, suddenly he moves up a rung, and he got in there and did his job on a couple of plays, got a tackle on his second snap. So you're seeing some of those guys that have been buried or just didn't get opportunities in the past. And Justin Dedich said it. He said, a sign of a good program is being able to do that. Get some guys those opportunities because it's going to be important. It's important to get Mason Murphy and Gino Quinones because when that offensive line has an injury, who's then going to fill in? Cooper Lovelace getting out there, and Milik getting in there at center. I think all those are valuable reps for them. And it's crazy. Some of the guys that, even the older guys, like Josh Follow didn't come in until late. Darwin Barlow doesn't come in until late. Darwin Barlow's first touch is a touchdown. And it's interesting. I think Lincoln Riley's probably like, all right, let's make sure we get him, keep him happy, give him a touchdown on the goal line and say, hey, we want you to go score before the final drive.
Austin Jones' first touch was a touchdown too. And Travis Dye, who had a big game, didn't score. He's like the only scholarship running back that didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, Raleigh Brown gets one and flashes the Heisman, showing what he can do. And everyone talking about Raleigh Brown after the game, just saying, it's like a video game watching him. Multiple spin moves on that final play. He was carted off.
Yeah.
Now, that is a concern. I don't think it is anything serious. I think it was just carted off because, hey, it's into the game. A swarm of people, let's just get you off. Because Chris Trevino was over there around the area where, he had ice on his ankle. Don't think it's anything serious, but something to definitely keep an eye on. We'll talk to Lincoln Riley tomorrow. There'll be something we'll be asking about as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, came out of this game with no one, having any even minor nicks, it seemed like, on the sideline. No, the medical tent, I don't think, got popped up until maybe for Raleigh at the very end.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so good. Coming out of the game, you score a lot of points, get a bunch of defensive touchdowns, and you come out healthy. It's kind of what you want to do. Plus, it's a team that sort of looks like your next opponent, somewhat resembles Stanford. The post-game was a little bit different. We were all in this media room. We got to hear from Lincoln Riley, Shane Lee, and Caleb Williams, kind of in a scrum, and then they brought people out. It was a little bit crazy in there, but anything that stood out from any of the interviews we did after the game?
I mean, Jordan Addison said they hope to score 50 a game. I mean, I think that's a strong statement, but he said they wanted to make a statement today. And he said that they did, and kind of put, he didn't necessarily use these words, but wanted to put the nation on watch that this is a for real team, and they got playmakers everywhere on this team. So I think you can see the potential of what USC could be. They've got to do it against much better opponents than this Rice team, but you see what the potential is, what the possibilities are, particularly on the offensive side, because Mario Williams doesn't even get in score. I was talking to him, and I said, kind of joking with him, like, you kind of disappointed you didn't get in when a couple other transfers did. He's like, no, it's all good. When you put up 66 points, I don't think anyone's complaining in that locker room today. And especially, like you said, with how many players got in, it's going to be fun to do the charting just to see who all got in, try to compare it to some other games and see when's the last time USC got this many players in, because there are a couple of walk-ons that got in. Even the San Jose State transfer on the defensive line, Sinjin Astani, getting in I believe it was the third quarter, and getting him, and that's again just rotating guys in, getting them opportunities. So I think this is a very beneficial game for USC. It's not necessarily for preparing them for when they play Utah, but preparing them for this program going forward and what it can be, and players just getting that opportunity, those reps, is always valuable in a game.
Yeah, you got to get that first one under your belt. Everyone's, like Lincoln Riley talked about this past week, it's like everyone on the team is either new to the system or new to the school. Like, it's just everybody, like Dante Williams is the only holdover coach, and the players that were here, it's all new system for all those guys. You get to play together once, and we got to see them play together once, and then we'll see how that translates going forward. But I put too much stock in one game, but I don't know if you could have a better start for the Lincoln Riley era, especially when all the talk was on the offense. The defense scores more points than Rice did, so it's pretty good. It was like, at one point, it was like 4 offensive well, actually, the defense had as many offensive touchdowns as the offense did for USC, and then Rice only had 2, and then the offense put a couple more up. But it was pretty good showing for the defense.
Yeah, Justin Dedich, Mario Williams, and Jordan Addison, I believe it was, all mentioned. At one point, they're like, defense is almost outscoring. We got to get going here a little bit, because I believe it was 24-21 offense to defense at one point. So, but they were all excited about seeing all those, because it's so rare to see 3 pick sixes in a game. None of the players, I don't think, have ever seen it before. Maybe in high school, maybe they saw something like that. But it was a fun game all around for the players. There was so much energy, so much enthusiasm on the sideline. Every time someone made a play, again, I referenced that Kalen Bullock, everyone running down there when Raleigh scored, just to see how many players are at the sideline waiting for him to get there to congratulate him. And it was a fun game for the players, and hopefully they can build on it to realize their potential, because there is a ton of potential on this team. Got to get some things cleaned up a little bit on the defensive side, and there's a little bit of concern there. There will be throughout this season. But the offense, if they stay healthy, there's just so many playmakers, and Caleb Williams showed what he can do, and it was almost like a modified scrimmage for him, how easy he made it look out there today.
Still waiting for the first punt on a Caleb Williams drive, so we'll see if that happens next week on the road against Stanford. All right, let's go wrap things up. Another wrapping up things around us. I don't want to keep the staff here too long. But for Shotgun Spratling, I'm Ryan Abraham. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. Make sure you check out USCfootball.com for more.